It's known as the largest cotton patch in the U.S. The pocket of West Texas and the Texas Panhandle produces 35% of all the cotton grown in the U.S. It's such a vital piece of the cotton industry in the U.S. And as we saw firsthand during our trip to Lubbock, Texas this week, the fallout from the drought is still a major concern as they also plant seeds of hope this season. Glimpses of green.
It's wet, it's not mud, but it's wet.
Are also signs of hope as any moisture here in West Texas is cherished.
3 weeks ago, I came out here and I was able to push this probe down 2 feet without a hammer.
But 3 weeks later, high winds have quickly changed the picture.
So I can still get it down there, but it's harder than it was.
As farmers here still are holding on to hope, more rain is on the way.
We will be in need of some good springtime rains and planting rains.
Rex Kennedy farms around 10,000 acres with his brother-in-law. 8,000 of that is dry land. And last year, they didn't have a dry land crop at all.
Compared to the last 2 years, we're a little bit ahead of where we were this time of year as far as winter moisture.
This year, the moisture situation is better, but El Nino typically brings bouts of snow for farmers here, and this year they didn't catch any of that.
January was a little bit above average. March has been above average. But, you know, you're talking about on our farms, what we've averaged is about 6 to 8 tenths. Now that's above average, but it's certainly not as much as we'd like.
Still in this area, cotton is the core crop, and Kennedy says they are growing slightly more cotton in 2024.
My operation, I have all cotton equipment, not really set up for rains. Now, if the prices were to be dramatically different, with cotton hovering around 80 cents, yes, I would look for something different. But right now, and like always, in West Texas, cotton is king.
Looking at the state as a whole, last week's prospective plantings report from USDA showed a slight decline in cotton acres in Texas this year. But nationwide, USDA thinks cotton acres could be up 4%.
No, I don't think anybody's surprised about the number of cotton acres. I think what has happened over time is, you know, in our area or in the South, the corn-cotton ratio has trended in favor of cotton most of the winter and into the spring. The 10.7 million all acres by USDA, maybe it's an underestimate, but not by much.
Darren Hudson is an ag economist with Texas Tech. He says for 2024, the supply story hinges on abandonment here.
If we had a reasonable summer, sort of normal weather kind of pattern, you could see a pretty sizable crop just based on, you know, the number of acres that get planted. And with the forecasted La Nina sort of cooling off and drying off during the summer, that's not favorable to cotton production.
Farmers in this area have already faced 2 consecutive years of drought, and another dry summer would be devastating.
Crop insurance helps smooth a bit for producers, but only 65% of expected revenue, so it's certainly not going to save them from losing money. I think a lot of producers are sort of upside down on their production loans. They've been, you know, refinancing, trying to roll that forward, and the banks have been working with them for now, but certainly that's a risk to the banks. It's the younger farmers that are more leveraged that are really feeling that pinch, and that's the group that we least want to see, you know, get out of agriculture.
And it's something Plains Cotton Growers CEO Cody Besant is also concerned about.
We've lost cotton farmers, be it young or old. We've had older producers that have exacerbated a lot of their long-term financial income to the point that they just can't simply sustain that. And we've had younger producers because it's such a difficult industry to get into, especially if you don't have family or friends to help you segue into the industry, that it's very difficult to get your footing and survive if you don't at least make a decent crop and be able to weather some of the financial risk that is bestowed upon the industry.
Besant says fallout from the drought isn't just unfolding across farms. It's also happening with crucial infrastructure like cotton gins.
We saw some infrastructure, be it gins or other downstream related segments, completely go out of business. In many instances, when a cotton gin, by example, goes offline, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for it to come back offline because it's a one-trick shot for that industry.
So how essential is it for cotton farmers here to not just break even, but make a profit this year? Besant says it's huge.
There's a lot of volatility, a lot of financial duress in the marketplace coming in out of our second year. Third year is really difficult for the industry to survive, be it a producer or downstream segments. So we've got to make a crop. This will make or break an individual for the most part.
It's not just concerns about making a crop, but also the price of new crop cotton.
It's hovering around 82 to 85 cents. And that is an absolute must.
If you'd have told me 5 or 10 years ago that 82-cent cotton would not be profitable, I probably would have laughed at you. But today, that's pretty close to the break even.
As Kennedy and other area farmers prep fields to plant, the risk this year is high.
Anywhere from 40 to 60% of the price or the cost of production is in the ground when you put the seed in.
My main concern coming up in 24, I guess number one would be timely rain. Number two, these input costs with no farm program. It's going to be hard to make this country pencil out without a drastic change in our farm policy, the economy adjusting to where we can get some of these input costs where they're not so high.
From increased costs to barely break-even prices for the cotton planted this spring, West Texas farmers continue to find new ways to weather the storm. Well, another storm farmers there are weathering is with crop insurance providers. Several providers either already announced they'll no longer service farmers in that area, or many are exploring that option. But in March, RMA issued a cease and desist order so no more providers would leave. Besant telling me they're happy RMA stepped in, but it's still a challenge ahead as they try to find a balance between farmers and crop insurance providers. And that won't be easy. All right, when we come back, a positive sign in trade relations between the U.S. and China. Ag Around the World is next.
U.S. Farm Report on the road from the Plains Cotton Growers Annual Meeting is brought to you by Ag Texas Farm Credit Services. Your success, our purpose. Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And by StoneX, your cotton price risk management experts.